Hi everyone, I'm Chris O'Neill from Sew the Distance. Thank you for joining me for day 3 of Christmas in July 2025. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you had a really successful time going through all of your fabrics and getting them all organized and ready to go for this month. And today we start the first project. This project is an ongoing Scrappy project, and if you do it during the whole month, by the end of the month you will have a quilt top done. How cool is that? You could even have a quilt done if you really are an overachiever. But let's shoot for having the blocks done and getting them into a quilt top using our scraps so we don't have to buy anything. Let me show you the block. This is the block that we are going to make, and I'm going to give you all the instructions. I'm going to show you how to make it, do all that wonderful stuff. But first I want to show you a few different colorways because you can do Christmas like I said yesterday. I like the red and green traditional. You can see in this block I have a few rules. One of them is this green going down the middle, and it's going to give you a really cool look. I'll show you my mock-up here. Well, it's not really a mock-up. It's the blocks that I completed when I was coming up with this design. This is just a standard 16 patch, super easy to do. Let me just show you another one that I'm going to be making because I am loving this and it's so much fun. I'm doing a fall one. You can see that here. These are just fall colors. I'm going to use the same background here and the rest is going to be Scrappy. But my rule for this one, you know what, let me get it onto a design board. Here we go, so I can hold it up and show you. So my rule for this one is brown is going to go through the diagonal, and that's going to give us a really wonderful secondary diagonal pattern throughout this. And the rest of the scraps will be any fall colors that I want except for brown. Now I know you're going to ask, can I do this in different sizes? You absolutely can. You can do it in smaller sizes. You can even do it in charm packs. You're just going to need a lot of charm packs. That's the only downside, but you can do 5-inch squares if you want. You'll just get a bigger quilt. Here's one that I did using 5-inch squares, charm packs, and you can see my rule is the black diagonal, and then I have white background. And then I also made a quilt for a charity. A friend of mine is collecting quilts for veterans here in the United States. So I made this quilt, or quilt top, using the exact same design, and I used all charm packs for this. I love using bigger pieces too for this because it does go together really quick. So on the blog, I will put the sizes for the patriotic quilt too, so you can check that out as well. But let's get back to this block. I love how this is coming together because it's so much fun. You do not have to have the pattern to make this block. I'm gonna show you how to put it together. Super easy, it's just a 16 patch, very simple to put together. However, I do have a pattern that is available if you sign up for the Christmas in July newsletter, which I'll put a link below in the description and in the first comment, so you can get a free pattern. You'll get the pattern for free. Isn't that fun? You also get a coloring sheet too with it, so you can design your own if you want to. All right, so let's talk about this block. And as I was pulling it together, I thought I had some shortcuts, and I'm going to show you some downfalls and some tips and tricks for it too. But let's first just talk about the actual block. All of these squares in this particular block are 3.5 inches unfinished. So when you cut them, they're 3.5 inches. And then when you sew them together, you're going to get a 3-inch finished block. That's what that means when you see unfinished versus finished, sewn together or not sewn together. This entire block, when it's sewn together just like this, will be 12.5 inches by 12.5 inches. When it's put into a quilt, it will measure 12 inches by 12 inches because we have 1/4 inch seam allowances. Now for each of these blocks, you'll need 4 green, if you're doing it the way I'm doing it, 4 green, you'll need 8 reds, and you'll need 4 backgrounds. Now you can do a Scrappy background, and I did that at first. Let me show you the block. And you can do this, and it will give you the same effect. I just personally, whenever I'm making a scrap quilt, I like to have something that's consistent. When I put a bunch of these together with the off-white background, you can see here, it wasn't the look I was going for. But then when I put some of the blocks together using the white, I loved it. So I decided to buy some yardage of the white to go with this. And you need, it's a little bit more than 3/4 of a yard, so I just bought a yard and cut these all up. So the backgrounds for me are all the same. It also makes it a little bit easier when you're putting it together. It's one less thing you have to worry about, in my opinion. Okay, so let's cut some fabric, and I'll show you how to do that with scraps. So I have this scrap piece of red fabric, and I have a 3.5 inch wide ruler that I absolutely love. So I can just put this on here and cut. But I realize not everybody has this. So you can use a bigger ruler. I'm going to show you how to do that. Let's see where we're at. I think that's a straight edge. Okay, so I am going to take my ruler and I'm going to line up what I think is a straight edge, and I'm pretty sure that's the straight edge, on one of these lines here. And I want to get rid of this uneven edge. So I'm just going to hold this down, but I'm also going to make sure that this area is more than 3.5 inches, which it is. Okay, so we're going to cut the edge off. I'm going to turn this around. And I'm going to go over 3.5 inches, and right here is my 3.5 inch mark. Now with these Creative Grid rulers, you want to make sure that the 1/2 inch is on the other side when you're doing it this way. So the way this ruler is, they have full inches and then one side's a 1/2 inch. So just make sure the orientation of it is the correct way. So I'm going to do that. I'm lining up my edge up here that I know is straight, and this side edge I'm going to line up and cut. I moved it. Of course I moved it. This one's probably going to have to go into the scrap bin, but you get the idea. And then we're going to turn it this way and do the exact same thing. Just line it up and cut. And there you go. You have your 3.5-ish size. Now, if you have an AccuQuilt, they do make a 3.5 inch die, and you can do that too, use that if you want to. So let's lay this out and I'll show you how it is put together. So we have a red or maroon. I'm mixing it up. Again, eclectic. White. Oh, my design boards. Let me just talk about that for a minute. This is just foam core that I cut, and then I put some batting on it and then put duct tape around it. But there's tons of different ways to make these, and I'll even link a video that Fallon from So Be It Quilts, she makes these too. And I think she uses fusible fleece, if I'm not mistaken. I think so, to do it. And so there's many different ways to do it. This is just the way I do it. So we're just gonna lay this out. The first row is like this. Second row. And I like to keep different ones in the block, different fabrics. I don't like to repeat the fabrics in the block, but I think I did do that on one of my blocks that I didn't. It's not a big deal, it's just my hang up. And we need a green. And then the last row is, let's see, green, red, white, and red. Oh, that one I have already. Let me get a different one. Just like that. And that's your block. That's it. Isn't it pretty? So you're going to sew the rows together and you're going to press them in opposite directions. So the top row you're going to press to the left. The second row you're going to press to the right. The third row you're going to press to the left. And the fourth row you're going to press to the right. And that's going to allow for all of these rows to nest together and go together beautifully. Now, if you have a design board, you can just sew them together just like this. Keep them on here as you sew. You can change piece them. Do them however you want. There's so many different ways to do this. You could also do strip piecing if you want to. But I am going to give you a word of caution because when I started making this block, I thought, well, heck, it's just 4 patches. I'll sew these 4 patches together, these 4 patches together, these together, these together, then I'll put the blocks together. And let me show you what happened. Let me pull these up. I've been doing a lot of unsewing because of this. So here is what I did. Okay, so that's the block, and I thought, well, that'll be great. I'll just put them together this way. The problem was it became a nightmare with which way things were pressed, and then I just got all messed up. If you're more organized than I am, you can do it this way. That's fine, and just make a whole bunch of 4 patches, but I caution you that it gets to be a mess. Now, if you open your seams for everything, you press them all open, not a problem at all. But for me, I like that locking in system. So I like to have everything just fit together perfectly, and it just didn't happen with this one, with doing it this way, but you can if you want to. Let me show you one of them done. So you can see here's the block, and you can see I did the 4 patches. And then when I put the next block together, I need to make sure that these are in opposite directions. It just became a mess. So I'm going to be doing some unsewing. I did just make this one with the method I told you about where you do the rows. So one thing I want to mention, and I know I said that I hate opening seams, and I do, I hate opening seams, but when you sew the rows together, you do open them so you can make it fit together in the full quilt when you put the blocks together. That way you don't have to go in and make sure that the rows are going one direction or the other. So definitely press the seams open when you sew the rows together. Again, unless you're really organized and everything, it's just going to make your life easier when we put this whole thing together. And you can see I then pressed my seams when I sewed the rows together open. But before that, you can see that they locked into place. Let me show you what I mean. Here are 4 rows ready to go. You can see they go that way, these go this way, and this way. They go in opposite directions. So when you put them together like this, these will lock into place and nest, just like that. And then you can just I put a pin in here. I'll just do that right now. Now you know me, I like to pin. So that's ready to go to the machine, and they all go in opposite directions when you do that. Another tip for this block that you might want to do is get a container like I have to keep it all in. Keep it organized, but that way you can have it all together. I also would suggest cutting a lot of your pieces so you can just sew whenever you feel like sewing. You can put it together. And I like to make at least one sample and kind of hang it by my sewing machine so I can remember the orientation and how it goes. Just helps me. I hope it helps you. All right, tomorrow we are going to be making a 3-yard quilt. It is a free pattern that I found on the 3-yard quilt lady, whoever invented it. I'll put the name up here on their website. So we're going to be making that with this Christmas fabric. Ah, so pretty. I also have a sample made of that and some other fabrics, so you get to see that too. I can't wait. Ah. All right, so I will see you tomorrow, hopefully. And like I said, everything's on my blog, so you can check that out too. And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you take some time to sew, and I'll see you soon. Bye.